Hello, my name is Jim Lee, and I'm so glad that you're joining us today. All right, title of my talk, The Mystical Magic of Easter. Now, I know it's not Easter. However, what I am saying, this message, the potency of Easter is so valuable that we can use it at any point in time. And hopefully I'll get an opportunity to share it with you in such a way that you get to see it. So let's go back now. What is Easter really? And what was it like for you when you were growing up? Well, first of all, if you were anything like me, you had the Easter Bunny, which was a chocolate one, by the way. You had Easter eggs that we colored and we did all of that. We had Easter clothes. And we had all kinds of things, dinners and everything that was associated with it. And all of that is so good, as long as it doesn't divert our attention from the central message of what the resurrection and Easter is all about. Then the other thing, I just wanted us to know that Easter is really about a life and death business, no pun intended. And it's about more than just a one-time life and death miracle of Jesus, what it seems like what we're talking about is the crucifixion and the resurrection. I mean, that's all potent. But today what I wanted to share with you about is a deeper message that Jesus and the whole Easter process was a symbolic representation of a deeper message. First of all, I want to say this. Everything about Jesus that you read about, see about, is a message about all of us. All of our humanity. Christian and not non-Christian. And so we've been raised to emphasize this one-time occurrence. But like I said, there's something deeper. Easter is not only about us, but I want to say that I affirm that Easter is about a four-letter word that's in all of us. Yeah, there's a four-letter word that's in each and every one of us, and that is life. Absolutely. What do I mean? I'm talking about new life, whole life, abundant life, redeemed life, and the resurrected life. Now, Easter, I would say, has deep roots. It seems like it started with Jesus and all of that, but it goes way back. There's some deep foundational thousands of years of energy that goes into this. Now, in this book that I have, it's called The Jesus Mysteries, and it says this: the mystery religions were practiced for thousands of years, and they were openly practiced by whole populations, and some were a small-scale and secretive affair for fear of persecution. Central to all these forms of mysteries was the myth of a dying and resurrection of a God-man. Yes, what I am saying is that this has deep archetypical type of images and energies that goes back thousands of years that Jesus represents. Let me give you some examples. There is Osiris in Egypt, Dionysus in Greece, Attis in Asia Minor, Adonis in Syria, Bacchus in Italy, and Mithras in Persia. Now, in these ancient mystery school systems, the initiates were in a system in which there was portrayed a story of struggle and suffering, and through a death process, not the real death, but a death process, they were released all of the negative baggage and then they were transformed to a joyous, victorious evolution of themselves, and that was resurrection. So the whole ritual of the mystery schools, it aimed at transformation of the initiate into a spiritual life, a new awareness, and a new entirely way of being. They were actually transformed at depth. Now this is the central secret teachings encoded in the Jesus resurrection. So now let's take a look at the resurrection teachings. And it really isn't a message that deals with what I would call religious dogma, something to believe. That's not what it's about. It's more about a consciousness we enter into. It's about an initiation, not about learning something new. It's about experiencing an altered state of awareness. That's what they did for thousands of years, and that's what the Jesus message is offering us today. I call this falling forward. And the paradox that is through the appearance of lack and limitations and fear, it seems like we're falling down, but actually we're falling forward and we move into a higher state of consciousness and awareness and freedom for all of us. So when we look to the crucifixion and the resurrection, and when we look at it metaphysically, we see the small self, the personality, the limited identity, and some people may call it the ego, which comes out of a thought process of us believing that we're separate and we're less than from God. And once we release all of that and let go of it, what's left and what's revealed is our true self. So in this crucifixion and resurrection, it's a process. They both come together. The false self and the ego really become an instrument for good. It becomes the fodder and it becomes the juice that puts us in the game so that we can have access to the higher self of the resurrection. Yep, the crucifixion and the resurrection go together. If you want a resurrection to become an evolved, in a higher state of being, crucifixion comes with the territory. Now, would I ask you this? Simple. Are there some impossibilities that you're facing in your life today? And if so, you can say, oh, goody, because that means that you're setting yourself up for a resurrection. What do I mean by if you're having some impossibilities? Well, for instance, you got a marriage that is not really working out right. In fact, it's on the rocks. Or maybe you have a friend who have left you disillusioned and hurt. Or maybe you hit bottom financially and it's really have you bound up. Or maybe you get caught up in some type of an addiction to alcohol or drugs or gambling or some type of addiction that's got you bound up. And what you have done over and over again, you have what we call backslid, or you have tried to break free, but you haven't been able to break free. It looks like it's really impossible. And you know what? We all face something like that at some point in time in our life. Just want you to know what a relief it is to know that the universe, the divine, has set up a process where we don't have to stay stuck. We don't have to stay bound. We don't have to stay limited. We can, in fact, move through to a new way of being, no matter how hopeless it may seem. Yay, and double yay. I know it sounds weird, but this condition or situation that really is painful and hurtful really is God coming, designed as life to us to lift us up. First thing I want us to do is breathe and don't resist it. Be with it. The next thing is do just the opposite of what we would normally do. We would normally shut down and close off. We want us to open up our hearts, but open up to pure, unconditional love, and that is love all of us and love everything that's occurring. And then the next thing is just be so open and vulnerable that we now have a way to have a smooth transition with the vulnerability of the divine and who we are. We can activate this process. So now we can let go and release negative thought patterns, and we can really become alive to our true self. We can become like Jesus did on that Easter morning and remove that stone and that tomb of limitation and the crisis that we're going on in life, or the obstacles that we have and the challenges that we have can be removed so that the resurrection can occur. So, whenever we live in conscious, loving union with love, which means we live in an awareness of the oneness of all there is and the divine is everywhere, we then can have the potency to do some wonderful things. And I call this the mystical magic of Easter. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said this: "The resurrection takes place in us every time we rise to a new realization of the perpetual indwelling life of God." Now, I wish it was a one and done kind of situation, but no, like I said in the very beginning, this is a daily living practice for transformation, for being free from getting unstuck in life. Now, resurrection is not resuscitation. And this is not going back and lifting up our old self and dusting us off or changing changing the chairs around on the Titanic. This resurrection is about getting in touch with our source of who we are, and a new identity starts to emerge that is an evolution of the old. We're not resuscitating the old body, we're creating a new. It reminds me of the story of the phoenix. You know, the phoenix story where the phoenix dies and burns up. And then when he comes back, it's not the same bird. He has new insights, new awareness that meets the current day and time. And that was the reason for it. We now in this resurrection process will have new insights to meet the new reality we're facing. So our mystery school lesson is just this: to be open and to be vulnerable. Just like Jesus, when he died on the cross, he didn't resist, and he was transformed at depth. Now I want to talk a little bit about vulnerability. I really love Thomas Keating, and he has this quote. He says, "The love of Christ manifests itself in his sheer vulnerability. The crucifix is the sign and expression of the total vulnerability of Jesus. The outstretched arms, the open heart, the forgiveness of everything and everyone. Vulnerability means to be hurt over and over again without seeking to love less, but more. Divine love is sheer vulnerability, sheer openness to giving. Thank you, Thomas Keating. That's good. So there is a partnership, like I said before, a direct partnership that joined at the hip between crucifixion and being vulnerable that leads to resurrection and rising up, a new transformed creature. It is our heart remaining open, experiencing the pain, experiencing the disappointment. And all of that creates this fertile ground for the resurrection, for our true identity to come forward with power, vitality, abundance, and joy. So I want to end with this. Yep, Easter is a 4-letter word called life, and it's in you, and this is how we receive it. Number 1, we let go of unresolved conflicts and unforgiveness so that we can resurrect to our true state of wholeness. Number 2, letting go of conformity and being true to our real self so that we can resurrect to integrity. Number 3, let's breathe this in. Letting go of thoughts of lack so that we can resurrect to abundance. And number 4, letting go of images and feelings and thoughts of limitation so we can resurrect to a new life in Christ. So our affirmation as we go forth is simply this: within the tenderness of my vulnerability lies the sweetness of the Christ ever resurrecting as me. So no matter what day, time, month this is, we can always resurrect to a new way of being, a new way of seeing, a new way of living. Matter of fact, now is the time for us to do that. God bless you. Have a great life.